Well, the first episode of Strange New Worlds arrived. I believe the title is Strange New Worlds. So, yeah. It was an episodic episode. That was the deal. They were saying, hey, we're going to get back to the episodic mode of stories. The way it originally was and all that sort of stuff. There's still something of an arc, and unfortunately they tie it into STD. Because, Pike saw his future, so that's why he's kind of taken a break from Starfleet and grew his hair out and his beard and rides a horse in the snow. And the Enterprise is being refit or whatever, so it's not ready to go back into space anyway. And so everybody else is on vacation too. Spock's getting it on with T'Pring. The girl playing T'Pring doesn't know how to play a Vulcan, but that's okay because the show doesn't know how to write them anyway. So anyway, they bang, or they try to, and then Pike calls Spock and need your help, buddy, because number one, instead of going on vacation, joined another ship to go make first contact with some society that supposedly discovered warp. Hint, they didn't, but they get captured or whatever, so they call in Pike to go rescue her. So that, so a rescue mission for number one, that's okay. And there's his first contact story. So there you go. There's this one episode adventure, and they do it. So that aspect of it is not too bad, except it's all connected to STD. Because you see, apparently when the Discovery went into the future, and they have to keep it all secret. That's why no one knows about it, except they keep talking about it with people who don't know the top secret mission. So Discovery went into the future, even though by then it didn't really need to because Control had been killed and all that. But anyway, oh boy, the event of Discovery jumping into the future was so bright that it reached this planet, and they saw it. And just by viewing the ship and I guess the Enterprise and all that, they were able to back engineer a warp engine, except they're developing it as a weapon to be a warp bomb. So you didn't really realize that was the big reveal at the end, that's what it was, because the concept that I forget the name of the ship that number one was. Oh, the Archer, of course. The ship she was on that made first contact. Well, they were detecting the warp signature on this planet, and they mistook the bomb for a warp drive. And that in and of itself could have been interesting. And then had a Federation ship or a Vulcan ship or someone else, crashed on the planet, and they back engineered it and that sort of thing. That could have worked as well, but they want to tie it into STD. So just by looking through a telescope and seeing one of the ships, they figured out how to make the warp drive, albeit in this version of it as a bomb, but nevertheless, the fact that they were able to do that just by looking at the ship. Oh, it's so bad. And then the rest of it, they're going about how could this society have done it? It's so primitive and stuff and backwards. It's like old Earth society, like the United States in the 21st century and all this crap. Now, to be fair, this does tie into the lore of Star Trek that, they had atomic wars and the eugenic wars happened and all that sort of stuff. This was all supposed to take place in the 90s. Of course, you got to push it a little further ahead now to make that work, which is one of the things about time travel. And even with the crap that Picard was, you could play this out in all the time travel episodes that have happened throughout Star Trek, and that no matter how much you do, to do your best not to change the timeline, try to be careful. Just your very presence there does it. So little things here and there would change it. And so things would change, like, and you could argue that that sort of stretched time a bit to where it pushed it further and further. So the original timeline where these wars did happen in the 90s and World War III erupted out of that no longer happened because of the manipulations of time, alters the timeline and so all that sort of thing. It's just a concept that could have been utilized, but they don't think it through. They just do it. There was really no reason for the time travel in Picard at all, because you can see my review on the final episode about what it was all about. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, by comparison, just on one episode, Strange New Worlds is better than Picard. It's better than STD, which is saying nothing. It's really nothing, because there's a lot of crap in here. There's a lot of rinse, lather, repeat dialogue and stuff like that. So Pike is troubled because he's seen his future, so that's, bearing down on him. So they're going to follow through on that. And my suspicion is that Anson Mount may only be on for one season, and he'll hand it off to Captain Kirk for the next season. My guess is that's what it is. But the only way to accept these shows is that it is an alternate timeline or another universe or what have you, because it just doesn't fit in at all with what the other shows have done. The bridge, again, the one is a little different than the one they showed at the end of STD, I think, but it's still one of the best ones they've done for these shows, and it's much better than the bridge they did for the J.J. Abrams movies. It's still not the bridge of the Enterprise, but it's much closer. There's little nods to it and stuff like that, and it's sort of nice. The uniforms still don't match up to the era. They're obviously trying to reflect the old show as best they can with whatever their parameters are that I'm guessing they're contractually obligated to do, despite the company fusing into one. But that's, otherwise, I don't know what they're doing. But there's still things that are off, when it's established in the old show that when Kirk came on, they still wore the uniforms that Pike wore and that sort of thing. So it hadn't really changed over, but whatever. Christine Chapel's there. That doesn't work. I've already talked about that earlier, but there she is, and that doesn't work. Uhura, it's not as bad as Chapel, but whatever. It doesn't really matter that much. But then Khan's descended here. What's her name? I forget what her name is now. With Noonan Singh, that Khan was in. So she is there, and she's the one who does everything. She's the badass. Pike and Spock look like idiots. She has to save them, basically, and be the one that gets them in and out and all this sort of crap. And so that's so probably going to get more of that throughout the episodes of this ridiculous display of how badass she is. And the crew is primarily women, and so they're all going to be better than everybody else and all that sort of stuff. So you'll be taken right out of the plot for that. So you can't really expect much, and by comparison, it's better than Picard and STD. But so what? It's too bad. I mean, in different hands, and Anson Mount, I think he's just a guy who's being wasted here. He's a guy who could carry a show like this, provided you actually gave him a show. But it's not. They pretty it up with a few things here. They spent some money on it, much more than they did for Picard. But I don't know how much longer that can last. Just, but a CGI tour of space that the Enterprise goes. Apparently space is a lot cloudier in that time. But that's about it. So we'll see what the next one is. But, not very optimistic about all that. Oh, and so before Kirk comes on, his brother is a member of the crew. So that was, a surprise. And he has his stupid mustache. So they got that. But it's funny. They remembered that Kirk had a brother. But they couldn't remember that Picard had a brother who actually appeared in the series before he was killed off in the first Next Generation movie off camera. But he had a very pivotal episode for Picard after he survived the Borg and all that. And but his brother is never mentioned in this whole big revelation about his mother and everything. They didn't know he had a brother. Here, they remember that, Captain Kirk had a brother named Sam. But we never got to interact or see Sam alive. We saw his dead body in an episode, which was it was just William Shatner with a mustache laying on the floor. And that was it. That was the only mention of Kirk's brother. But they knew his brother. They didn't know Picard's brother, who actually had a whole episode. It's just, man, I'll never get these people, you know? So that's about it. Anson Mount's really good, but he's wasted. There's a lot of silly and stupid dialogue that kicks you right out of the show when it almost has a shot here and there. Ethan Peck probably could do a good enough Spock. His voice is probably the better parts of it. I think his voice is better than Zachary Quinto, but Zachary Quinto, character-wise, seemed to do a better job. But there again, he's just not helped by the story that he's stuck in, and he's there to be the comic relief for a bit here and there that they do, and to look stupid so that what's-her-face, Nooning Soon, whatever, can be, the real hero. And she has a dark past and all this stuff, so yeah, that'll be there. But, yeah, so, it'll be a big surprise if the next show is pretty good, but who are we kidding? So that's about all there is. So I'll have to check in on the next one, but not very optimistic.